We were both angry last week. I'm still angry, and I sent you a little text about my thoughts. Basically, I thought I'd just read it out if that's okay. And I've called it. I put it to you. So, and I was sending it to you, just expressing my frustration. You actually put something at the end, which I'll read out as well. But I think this to me summarises where we are. So I put it to you, Nick, that we now have here a government at war with its own people. A government that's trying to brush under the carpet the murder of 3 little English girls. A government that is arresting and imprisoning any white English men who have shown anger over what has happened and what is happening to their country. A government in control and lockstep with the mainstream media, who promote their lies and propaganda about good English people. A government carrying out grotesque psyop campaigns to manipulate its citizens. A government who celebrates the criminality of Muslim thugs and communities while slandering and belittling its own white, working-class, law-abiding citizen. A government that has betrayed and abandoned its own people. So I won't finish there because you responded. I'd like to read it out, which I thought was very good. And you put a government that is afraid. A government that can see the people rising up and does not know what to do except come down hard with an iron fist. But things are in motion now that cannot be stopped. If the Rwandan killer turns out to be a Muslim convert, then expect a lot more violence. But I think your point there is a government that is afraid. And do you think that's at the heart of this?
I think that comes out straight away when you hear the government speaking now. Everything you wrote to me, you could say that about the Tory government. All that was addressed them as well. But things have changed since that murder, and it just happens to be a Labour government in power at the moment. All this would have happened if the Tories were in power as well. It's just bad timing for a Labour government. I just see fear. I see fear in the Prime Minister. I see fear in the top police officers. I can see them all looking at the situation going, we only control this with public consent. We only control this country, and we managed to do what we wanted to do because the English and the British were tolerant and law-abiding, and they followed the rules, such as voting in the general election, such as the referendum, and they felt as if they were being listened to. But they now know they're not being listened to. And that's why Kier Starmer cannot discuss the underlying issues of the problem. Because if he tries to discuss that, he opens himself up to criticism that you're part of the problem. And these issues you can't discuss, as in they're so huge and so wide, it will change society. And he knows it will probably bring down his government. So what's he left with? Well, he's left with exactly what the Eastern European governments were left with when they had communism. Iron fist, control the press, smash the people when they rise up, control everything, make them afraid, give them propaganda, tell them lies to their faces because most of them will believe those lies, and make them fearful of criticising lies and make them fearful of expressing themselves because the Stasi, the Gestapo will come for them. And that's what we're doing online now. So many people, I get comments every day now going, be careful of saying that, Nick. You might get a knock on the door. And I'm basically, well, knock on my door. I'm not changing what I'm talking about. I'm not going to change my language. I'm going to say exactly I'm going to say exactly today what I would say 2 weeks ago. And I've always tried to be polite and thoughtful and intelligent. I'm not saying I always achieve it, but I always try to be that. I'm not changing the way I communicate online, and I'm not going to change the conversations I want to have. But that's what a failing government wants. It's their last grasp at power of trying to control the people, and it will last for a certain amount of time. But the lid is off the jar now. Change is coming, big change is coming. How long it will take, I don't know. But all I see in our government class now is fear.
I think it's interesting the expression you use, the iron fist, that we're certainly seeing that now, aren't we? And I think you're right. People like you and I talking now, technically the way they're talking, the things you and I talk about, which to me are about free speech and opinion, they can get you locked up. You know, we're heading in that direction, aren't you? I mean, there's even this thing about we're going to talk more about the media later. There's even this thing about if you retweet something, if you retweet something else somebody else has written, you're potentially at risk of being criminalised. And people are scared of that stuff, aren't they?
Absolutely. The government now are threatening American citizens, not just Elon Musk, but are saying any misinformation and stuff that comes from America, we're going to apply for extraditions to get those people here, to prosecute them here. And it's like, if that doesn't terrify British people that they're going after Elon Musk, richest man in the world, but are going to go after foreign nationals based in foreign countries for things they said while they were in a foreign country.
Yeah. What chance do we have here in this country?
And I know the government realised they've got no chance of doing any of that, but that was a warning to British people, saying to them, look how far we're willing to go. Look how far, if we're willing to go after Elon Musk, do you think we'll care for 1 second us destroying you in Plymouth, destroying you and your family in Newcastle, destroying you, Nick Buckley, in Manchester city centre? Do you think we'll care about you whatsoever if we're willing to take on Elon Musk? And it was an indirect threat to the people of this country.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right, of course. But I mean, there's a big question here, isn't there? So we're assuming, aren't we, because we're British, because we believe in freedom and all that sort. We're assuming that they won't succeed in this. We're assuming the iron fist, suppression, controlling the media, all the things we've talked about, all the things in that list there, controlling the media, controlling thought, controlling, what's the expression in 1984? The thought police, basically. They've got the thought police marshalling their troops now as we speak, haven't they?
And we've had all these things for a long time.
Yeah.
I keep saying to people, this isn't the last 4 or 5 weeks. This isn't a Labour government problem.
Yeah.
This has been our elite, our institutions, all our governments for at least 30 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
This isn't a new problem.
But why is it suddenly far more visible than maybe it has been?
I think it's because of that murder. That murder changed the public consciousness in this country. It just happens to be bad luck for Labour government.
That they were there at the time. But as we've always said, when we've said, Labour aren't doing very well, I've always said it's basically the same government that just shoveled a few people around. But the point I was going to make is we're sort of sitting here believing that we're right and that this is wrong and all that. But why couldn't we become Russia or China? Or I think one of our viewers commented along that lines, because we were saying this will end. But they're sort of saying, it might have been you that said it, but they're saying, well, China has been doing that for decades, centuries. Russia's been doing it for decades. Why couldn't that end up happening here?
Anything can happen. So I'm not saying 100% it will never happen here, but I can't see it happening here because we've got a different history. China has always been ruled by basically dictators, by emperors, by slaughtering people. China is so big, it's so many times bigger than Europe. So let's say there's 20, 30 countries in Europe, and we've had wars for generations between each other. China is 3-4 times bigger and is controlled with an iron fist. Once that iron fist is gone, China will implode and they'll break up in different countries and there'll be wars between them. That's inevitable. Hence why to rule China, you need an iron fist. Same with Iraq. When we had Saddam Hussein running Iraq, there was no civil strife in Iraq. We had Kurds, Shiites and Sunnis all living together, all not liking each other, but they were scared to cause each other because Saddam Hussein would kill you, your family and your village. So you all did as you were told. Once we removed Saddam Hussein and the Iron Fist, they all killed each other. Russia has always been ruled by an Iron Fist and the Tsars. We're different here. Since Magna Carta, we've got the mother of all parliaments. We're just a different breed of creature. And even though we've got a semi-socialist authoritarian state now for the last couple of decades, it'll come to an end. And when the history of our country and this period is written into the history books, they will mark the day those 3 girls died in Southport as the day that changed the country.
That's the trigger point.
That changed the country.
Yeah, I think it did, didn't it? I think everybody's now thinking differently.
It was the straw that brought the camel's back.
Yeah.
It wasn't the 22 people blown up in Manchester. It wasn't the 52 people blown up on the underground in London. It wasn't the 100,000 white girls being mass raped. It wasn't soldiers being beheaded on the streets. All that contributed to the problem and got us closer to the finish line. But the final straw was those 3 girls.
That's really a really interesting point.
Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers, I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.